Okay, so we've been having a little bit of problems with doing our subtractive modeling in SketchUp. So I was just going to kind of go through and give you a little tutorial. This is what I want to look like in the end. And you'll notice that it's exactly the same as what it looks like on your direction sheet. So make sure that you have that sitting next to you and handy as we get started. So I'm just going to shrink that and open up a new file. And I just used the interior because I like the white background. So I just delete the little guy who's sitting there because he annoys me. So I'm just going to make a rectangle, and I'm looking at my directions, and I can see that it's 1.5 inches in width, and it goes back 2.25 inches in depth. And you say, wow, that's tiny. Yeah, just use your mouse and your scrolly wheel and zoom in on it. And now I'm going to pull it up 1.5. So again, I'm looking at my directions to find those numbers. So I just have this giant rectangle. And that's exactly what I want, is a giant rectangle. So now I'm going to go to Camera, Standard View, Top. And it flips it over. So now I can just draw straight on the top. I'm going to start in a corner. SketchUp loves to start in corners. And I'm going to go 0.75, comma, 0.75, because I know that the cutaway for this upper piece right here, that's a 0.75 by 0.75. It's an absent block. So that's what this is going to be down here too, in the lower front or left. So that's going to be 0.75, comma, 0.75, enter it. And now you can see I'm just going to use my mouse here to tilt it a little bit so that when I pull this, I just use my push-pull and it disappears. Now you can click it, come down here and say 1.5 to get an exact to make sure it goes away if you're concerned. But notice it still doesn't look like it did when I had the original up here, because there's a part here, this little L shape has to push down slightly. So to get that, the easiest way is to take a pencil tool, click, and notice it wants to sit there at that midpoint, which makes it really nice for you, and it wants to follow along and make all of those little connections at the corners. I grab this and I can push it down 0.75. There you go. And now to see it again, I'm going to go to my camera and I'm going to go to Standard Views ISO. And notice now I can see an isometric. It looks exactly like the one in my directions. If you're concerned, you can always dimension it. Now, there's a trick to dimensioning. So if I click here and I click there and I pull up, it gives me my inches as fractions. Well, that's not what I want. So I'm going to go up to Window and I'm going to pull down to Model Info. And that's where I'm going to change it to a decimal system, and I'm going to do it in inches, and the precision, I like to have 2 decimal places, but that's me, and then I'm going to close it. This changes. Now, if it weren't to change, I would delete it and go back and do it again. But now I can dimension and see that each of these sections, there you go, and notice that if I hold down and turn, and let's grab this guy and get rid of him. So getting rid of a dimension is pretty easy. I just used my arrow, clicked on it, and deleted it. So if I want to see how far it is from there all the way back to there, notice, there it is. It's 2.25, which is exactly what it is in my drawing. Now if I want to see the complete height, I would go here and see if that's 1.5. This is 0.75 here, but from there to there should be 1.5. And notice I can do that and get all my dimensions and make sure that they're all right. Now here's the trick. You're going to have to, at some point, make an orthographic design for this so that you can actually print it out. So that will be in our next video, and I'll show you how to do that. But that was the basic subtractive method.